Hi everyone, this is Britt Simon. So I thought I'd jump online and take questions and answers from any of you that might be around. Bit of an odd time on a Sunday. I've been enjoying a Father's Day morning celebration with my family. So apologies I'm late online, and I won't do a very long time online, but I'm happy to take any questions that you have on DV Lottery. Let me just start off with hi, Mohammed. Yep, ask your question. So let me start off with DV 2021 and DV 2020. There's no news on the appeal. We're still waiting. We just have to wait. There's nothing can be done. So Tariq and Mohammed, you both say you have a question, but you don't ask the question. Just ask the question. You don't have to tell me you've got a question. Just ask the question. And I'm very good. Thank you for asking. So yeah, greetings to the first few of you that have joined. Greetings indeed, Ahmed. So who's going to be the first person with a question? And how about we get some interesting questions today? That would be fun. I'd love that if we can get some interesting technical questions that are around about how do you process your case and that sort of thing, as opposed to the normal questions of here's my case number, when will I get my interview? Talked about the 2021 appeal already, Anish. So I've talked about that. There's no news on that. Philip, pleased to see you here. Great to see you here. Philip, for others, is a very smart guy. Not even a DV lottery winner, but he's already starting to help people out with getting information from SEAC. So much appreciated, Philip. I'm sure you'll be able to contribute very well to the tool set that we have within the DV community. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, my case number is 30,000. I transferred from Warsaw to Georgia. What do you think I can get interview? You transferred from Warsaw to Georgia. Warsaw just took a lot of interviews. Georgia, you may have a chance there. So, fingers crossed for you. Will you get an interview? I don't know. I can't see the future. I have to be cautious in what I predict. There's only 1 month left, and so I'm going to be naturally cautious about what I say. So all I can say is wait and see. Want to thank you for the last year. We got our visa in Frankfurt, and you're moving on the 4th of July. Congratulations, Daniela. That's awesome news. Good luck on the arrival there. You'll be coming on a very special day for America and a special day for yourself. So that actually bodes very well, right? Okay. Hi, Simon. 2025 winner, EU 26,000. I'm from Azerbaijan, living in Poland. What do you think about the embassy in Poland? They're good. They're fine. They're fairly busy. They are taking work from other countries where those embassies are not working. But you'll be fine there, I think. You should be fine as long as your case number goes current. Now, your case number is sufficiently high that there may be some risk for your number, but we don't know yet because we don't know the number of selectees that are actually selected in 2025. So we'll have more information in July or August. Okay. Eugene asks, thanks for your guidance. My visa was approved. Nairobi Embassy kindly advised the procedure of paying the green card processing fee. When you're given your package, you're given a brown package, etc., which has got some papers in there. You don't open that envelope at all. But you should also be given some information about how to pay your fee online. You pay it at a system called Ellis. And you can Google that if you want. You can Google Ellis. But you need some information from your package, which is on the outside of the package normally. And there's full instructions there. Just be a little bit careful because the fee amount has changed. It used to be $220. I think it might be $230 now. I'm not quite sure, but check for the amount, okay? Guys, hit the like button, says Abraham. Absolutely correct, Abraham. That's quite correct. Ash says, do cases get stuck at MVC even if they're current? What are the reasons? Yes, look, MVC is like the starting point when you're playing Monopoly. It's like the go thing when you're at the beginning. NVC means a bunch of statuses or a bunch of things could have happened, but basically you haven't been scheduled. So every scenario where a person hasn't been scheduled is at MVC, right? Now, what are those scenarios? The person may have not filled in their DS-260. That's the first one. They may have done that because although they won the lottery, maybe they didn't find out about the lottery win. Maybe they found out about the lottery win, but they decided not to move. Maybe they found out about the lottery win, but they realized they can't qualify for the green card lottery because they don't have the education or work experience. Or maybe they found out that they had made a mistake in their entry and so they didn't fill in the DS-260. Those people all stay at MVC. Other cases that stay at MVC is where people filled up the DS-260, but maybe they did it so late that it never got processed, and those cases stay at at MVC. They could also have filled up the DS-260, it was processed, but they're stuck at an embassy which is heavily backlogged and their case number is too high to be scheduled. That can happen too. And so those are the main reasons. It's sort of people not interested or don't proceed with the process, or people do proceed with the process, but they're, for whatever reason, they're not able to get scheduled. So that's basically why you see those cases. Mohammed says, if we're on an asylum and we got to a work permit, but still pending the decision, are we eligible for the DV lottery? Let me just say you're eligible for the DV lottery. There's nothing that you have done in that asylum process, I hope, that has caused a problem with the DV lottery, right? Now, are you eligible? Are you from a country which is eligible? Do you have the right work experience or education? I don't know those things, but in terms of the asylum process and getting a work permit, that doesn't stop you from getting a DV lottery. Okay. Very disappointed on VB Asia. You're probably disappointed because you thought that the case numbers were going to go very high because you weren't paying attention that a lot of people got selected and too many were selected. If you go back to a video I created in January for Asia, I said then that the cutoff for Asia could happen as early as 17,000. And I think I'm going to be about right. I think the cutoff will be probably, I'm hoping, 17 to 19,000, somewhere around about that. I could be wrong, and it could actually cut off a little bit below my 17K number. But that's always been the case. That's always been my estimation. And so you may be disappointed because you expected the case numbers to go to 40,000, but that was never going to happen. So, and I've been very clear about that from the beginning. So I'm sorry if that information didn't seep through to your understanding, but there you go. Dear Simon Britton, please check my case number AF 2025 AF8K. I'm going to check your case number right now. You stay by the phone. I'm going to call you and let you know exactly what's going to happen with your particular case number, because you've made it so clear at 8,000. It could only be one of 1,000 cases in a system that I've got absolutely no access to. So yeah, I'll check it for you. I'll be right on it in a few moments. Philip says you are a 2025 winner. Philip, I didn't understand that. I thought you weren't. I thought you weren't a 25 winner. Now I understand why your burgeoning interest in DV lottery. That makes more sense. I thought you were just doing this as a sort of an exercise, a mental exercise, and to brush up your obviously excellent programming skills. So sorry about that. Didn't realize. John Doe, how are you? I'm a 2025 winner, number AF22K from Doha. What are the chances, or should I change interview location? Look, when you're asking a question like that months before you could possibly be scheduled, right? You're asking me to predict how the Doha embassy will be behaving 6 months from now, essentially. I don't know how they're going to be behaving 6 months from now. I wouldn't necessarily move. I've made it clear that there are basically two embassies that I would be very concerned about being at, with a case number that's relatively low, but not super low and not super high. And those two embassies are Accra and Ankara. Outside of those two embassies, if you've got a low or even low to medium range number, you're probably going to be okay. And let's just take the example of Addis Ababa, for example. Addis have been an awful embassy in 2024, But even they will get to probably about 28,000 in DV 2024. So, it's okay there. And I have been saying from January, get the hell out of Addis if you're like a 30,000 range number, a 40,000 range number. And those people had time to change their address to get reassigned to a different embassy. They had time. So the worst position to be in is to be at a poor performing embassy with a case number that is low enough that you get locked in very quickly in the year to that poor performing embassy. So that would be like a case number of like EU 10,000 at Ankara or Africa 10,000 at Accra. Those numbers are in really bad trouble, because unless they understand that they need to move now and they do something about that now, they're going to get locked into those crappy embassies. So that's why I produced a video giving very clear advice, I hope, to people in those number ranges to get the hell out of Accra and Ankara. So, yeah. Is Yerevan going to send 2NL for Iran for August? Probably. Have they already done that? Let me check that. Yerevan, no, they haven't yet. So they might do. They probably will. We'll have to wait and see. Again, my ability to read a crystal ball and see the future is actually more limited than people realize. I don't have that ability. Mr. Bricks, are we sure anything good will come out concerning the DV 2021? No, we're not 100% sure. We won the lawsuit originally. That was appealed. And, we can't be sure that the appeal is going to be in our favor. But Thaddeus, you can only really benefit. There's a bit of a subtlety to this statement, but you can only really benefit if you were involved in one of the lawsuits. If you weren't involved in the lawsuits and you're not from one of about 26 embassies, mainly around Europe, then your 2021 journey is over. There's no point in thinking about it anymore. It doesn't matter what happens for the appeal. So for a lot of people are keeping their hope open for DV 2021 when actually there's no possible way they can be helped even if the appeal wins. DV 2020 is a different scenario. There was a class action protected class that covers almost everybody that was a DV winner that didn't get their visa. But for those people, there's a limited number of visas too. So it's not like everybody can be helped if the appeal is won for that either. So nobody in DV 2020 or DV 2021 has a safe pathway forward, right? There is no safety. There's just going to be a chance for some people in both years, I hope. Okay, so we're keeping our fingers crossed for that. Does using Visa Photo app affect photos submitted for DV lottery? I don't know what that question means. Ethiopia, 26K chance of getting an interview, sir, in 2024. High. Although we haven't got the exact confirmation. I believe Addis took cases up to about 24,100, 24,200, 24,200, something like that. Which is almost exactly what I predicted. And so it looks like my predictions that I've been making now for at least 2 to 3 months for Addis Ababa, the calculations I've been making clear to people on how to do that. It looks like those are going to be exactly accurate. And that means that we'll get to about case number 28,000 in Addis. So there's a bit of nuance to that. So I can't be precise about exactly where they're going to end up. And it could be changed by the number of interviews that Addis take in the final month. They could do like 120 as they've been doing recently, or maybe they could go to 200. And if they went to 200, then we could see some numbers like 30,000 being interviewed there. But 26,000 will be good in any possible way. I think you'll be fine, right? which is the same message I've been saying for some time. So I'm kind of surprised you don't already know that, but there you go. Hi, Britt. I'm at Nepal, 62K, and I want to move my case. What is your recommendations? Okay, let me just talk about this for a minute. I have had a lot of people from Africa region telling me that that they had moved their case to Africa. And I was talking to someone the other day on one of the channels, and they said there's 190 cases like this of Africans that moved their cases to Nepal. And that was clearly a coordinated effort by a bunch of people. And I don't know if the 190 is correct or not, but it was a coordinated effort where some idiot, frankly, told a bunch of people to all do the same thing. Now, what will have happened is that there may be some genuine cases where some people in Africa actually were living in Nepal, but the majority of those people that asked to be transferred to Nepal probably lied to KCC to achieve what they wanted to achieve, right? And those people were then reassigned to Nepal. But there's so many of them because it was a coordinated effort led by some idiot that doesn't understand what they're doing, that now would have raised concern at KCC. And so there's probably some red flag being placed on all of those cases where KCC believe, rightly, that those people were trying to get moved to an embassy without following the proper instructions, right? Which is to stay at the embassy where you live. So I'm concerned that there are people that are being ignored from the Nepal embassy. And I totally understand that your question, Husaifa, is about moving your case. But if you're in that group of people that asked to be allocated to Nepal and hadn't actually moved to Nepal, and therefore lied to KCC, KCC may not help you. They may not now reallocate you to some other embassy because you've now decided to tell another bullshit lie that you want to get interviewed somewhere else, right? And so I think those people that have moved their cases, they think, to Nepal have probably caused themselves a problem. That's just my assumption. I have no confirmation to back that up, but I am concerned that that's what's happened. Now, Nepal embassy just scheduled 250 people. They were all in the Asia region. It can happen sometimes that because of the way that case numbers are added each month to the AV status, into the queue of people in AV status, that can mean that that people from only one region get interviews one month, and then the next month they can move to another region. But I don't know that that's going to happen. I don't know whether these cases truly have been moved to Nepal or not. We'll only have to wait and see. So frankly, I think those people that have made that choice have rolled the dice. They've made that gamble, and then now they're going to have to live with however that turns out. And I hope it works out well for them, but I suspect it's probably not going to work out well. That's my assumption, to be honest. So there you go. Won the visa lottery 2025, but I'm a hairstylist. What do I do? Being a hairstylist isn't illegal, right? I mean, I don't have a lot of hair, but some people do. If you mean you don't have an education that meets the requirements and your work experience is that of a hairstylist, then yeah, don't bother proceeding. You can't qualify for the DV lottery by having a hairstylist type job. So you either qualify on education or you qualify on work experience. But if your education doesn't meet the level of a US graduate of high school, that's the level you need to be at, then yeah, you won't get approved, right? So don't bother proceeding. Save yourself the money, save yourself the pain, okay? I talked with Curtis Morrison, and he says he can help me get an interview if I change my location from Ghana. Okay, well, keep on talking to Curtis then. Let him help. If he says he can help, let him help. right? I presume you're going to pay them some fees. You have to decide whether that's what you want to do or not. The trick there is actually moving to another embassy, right? If you get moved to another embassy, then your battle is already won. But the point is, can you get moved to another embassy? Now, if Curtis or some other lawyer could somehow manage to move your cases, then that's worth paying them for, I should imagine. But I'm not sure that's what Curtis is promising you. So be careful about what you're being promised. Make sure you understand what promises are being made. Curtis won't make a promise that he can do something unless he can do that. He's smart enough to know that he can't make a promise that he can't back up, right? So you have to be very attentive to what's being said to you so that you don't make up bullshit in your head about what's being said to you, right? Curtis won't lie to you, but it's up to you to listen properly so that you understand what you're being told, okay? And if you don't listen properly, you might hear something that you're not actually being told. But good luck. Robert says, please, do you have any updates from Accra? Accra is not going to give us any updates. They're just going to keep scheduling 20, maybe 30 people a month. That will be their position in the last month. They have they scheduled? No. We don't have confirmation that they've scheduled. I think they have scheduled a few people, but I don't have confirmation they scheduled some people for August yet. But there are 728 African cases in transit, so it may be that they've already scheduled, and we don't know in the data yet, right? But they're not going to suddenly become a good performing embassy. Let's be honest, that's not going to happen. So people with case numbers above 8,000 in Accra are screwed, frankly. There's no other way of putting it. Abe says, they have to 28.99 from Accra. Is there a chance of the final month? If you mean your case number is 28,990 or something like that, it's going to be risky. It's going to be on the risky side. I can't say 100% yes or 100% no. You just have to wait and see. Would there be any second batch of 2NLs in Casablanca? I don't know. I suspect so, because CSB only scheduled 80 people, which is way lower than their normal number. So I suspect there's going to be a second batch of 2NLs for Casablanca, but I can't be sure. Right? I don't have control of that process. Okay. Tarek says, we're 2024 lottery winners. Our interior location is Ankara. And our case number 7,000. What do you think about the case? Will we get an interview or not? Again, it's on the cusp of the sort of the dangerous range, right? You may get a chance, you may not. I don't know. Ankara, I don't know whether they've taken cases or not, right? Umeri says, why 2NL delayed? What 2NL delayed? There's 2,900 2NLs have already gone out for August. 2,896 have already gone out for August. So what 2NLs are delayed? And they were sent, by the way, over the 3 or 4 days after the visa bulletin was published, and the VB was published pretty early. So what exactly is delayed? Be more clear about your question, please, and you'll get a better answer. Adeji says, how can I change my diversity visa interview location to another embassy? Google these words: Brit Simon, change embassies. 3 words. That's all you have to do. Google those words, and you'll find a blog article I wrote that explains how to change embassies. Having said that, it's not necessarily easy to change embassies. I think some of you have got the impression that you can just pick and choose any embassy you like based on what you've heard from your buddies is a good embassy or not. It doesn't work like that, right? That's not what happens. Even though the policy has changed about embassies that should take your case, the reality is it's still difficult, and it will remain difficult for some months to come. And it will still largely be based on where do you live or where are you now, physical presence, right? There are some embassies that are starting to talk about physical presence, which recognizes the new policy. So if you're physically present in another country. You genuinely are physically there, and you can stay there for enough period of time to actually have your interview. There are some embassies that are starting to recognize that and will perhaps agree to take your case, right? But this has not got dramatically easier overnight. You shouldn't have that impression. This is not changing the embassy is still not an easy thing. Okay, but do Google my blog article and read about that. Handsome Boy 27 says, "Hi, winner from Kazakhstan, living in Canada. If doc requirements are different in Almaty and Montreal, whose country rules do I follow?" Well, that's a good question. Thank you for asking that one. Okay. There are a couple of things that you need to do. You need to read all of the instructions. The instructions are in several places. There's a general set of instructions, which is the link you're given when you are selected, and you can Google the words "if you are selected," and you'll get to a web page which gives you a set of instructions, right? In that web page, it will point you to some embassy-specific instructions, which are generally the instructions that the embassy where you're attending the interview, instructions that they have that are specific to that embassy. And in there, they may say certain requirements for documents that they particularly want. So, there are some embassies, for example, that will want a celibacy document, or they'll want an I-134, and they'll make those things clear in their embassy-specific instructions. Then there is the reciprocity page, which again, you can Google that reciprocity page, right? And that tells you about how you obtain documents and what documents are available from the countries where you came from or where you lived before, right? So let's say you lived in Ghana and your education was in Ghana, but you're going to interview at Nairobi. You need to read 4 sets of instructions, essentially, well, 3. You need to read the general instructions. You need the instructions for Nairobi interview, so that's the embassy-specific instructions. And for Ghana, you're going to need the reciprocity page that will tell you how you obtain a police certificate, how you get the marriage certificate, and so on. It'll tell you about each of the documents that you are expected to provide because you grew up in Ghana or you lived in Ghana, right? That's how it works, right? So the embassy has some rights to say what they want based on you going to interview there. The place where you were born or where you lived will affect what documents you have, and the general instructions are also going to come into play as well. In the general instructions, it will say things like, if you lived in a country for more than 12 months after the age of 16, then you need a police certificate from that country, right? Or if you were arrested in any country, you need a police certificate from that country, right? So you need to read all of those instructions. So when I say to people, read the instructions, I mean, you should read all of those instructions, right? That's exactly what I mean. Okay. Hi, Britt. Can a CNA nurse qualify if she also has a GED? Probably. So a GED doesn't actually qualify you. But the CNA nursing qualification might have helped, and the education you had before that might have helped meet the qualification. It's a bit specific. So if you Google the word Britt Simon, and then the 2 words work experience, so you're Googling Britt Simon work experience, you'll come to an article where I explain how you meet the education requirement, and also how you show work experience and which jobs qualify, etc. Google that and you'll get more information. Okay. 2025 AF 55,000 Doha Embassy. Is there a chance? Way too early to be asking that question. You're a year away from your interview. Impossible for me to sort of talk about that. Okay. And you're Egyptian, which means it's going to be slower. So you're a year away from that. I'm not going to predict what's going to happen in a year's time. My case number is 12,000 something from Nepal. What are the chances to get an interview? You still have a chance. There could be, could be an increase in the final month there that takes into account your numbers. So fingers crossed for you. Any chance for EU 33,000? It seems a bit impossible now. I'm going to assume you're DV 2024, but I wish you'd have told me. It seems a bit impossible. I don't agree. It doesn't seem impossible to me. I still think my EU estimation was pretty good. I thought that the cutoff would come as a minimum at about 31,000 in EU, and I still believe that that number is going to be exceeded. And I expected a number of about 35 to 37. That was pretty much what I expected. That was my expectations back in January, and I think I was pretty much spot on. And I think it's going to be in that range. So I'm saying above 31,000, and probably maybe above 33,000, maybe above even 35,000. It could easily happen in the final month. We just have to see. Okay, we have to wait and see. So it's not impossible. I certainly wouldn't be giving up if I were you. I think you've got a reasonable chance. Okay. Nice message of thanks. Thank you for that. I don't work that hard, but thank you. My case is stuck in 221G. There is no update since I had my interview, and time is getting shorter, and I'm thinking of hiring a lawyer. What do you think? Is there any lawyer you would suggest? It's up to you. You're asking me to make a recommendation about whether a lawyer can help or not. Sometimes they can help, sometimes they can't. But you haven't given me any information about where is the case from, which embassy were you at, when you were interviewed. Those things would be helpful for me to give you a more, realistic opinion about whether I think you should hire a lawyer or not. But basically, let me put it this way. If you have $3,000 or $4,000 spare and you care about your green card process a lot, then spend the money on a lawyer, right? If you've got spare money, spend it. If, on the other hand, $4,000 or something is going to be a lot of money for you, and perhaps a significant life-changing amount of money for you, then you probably shouldn't be risking that money on a lawyer, right? Because there is no guarantee. Just by hiring a lawyer doesn't guarantee you that your 221G will finish. But it would certainly have helped if you told me why you were on 221G, when you went on 221G, what country you're from, what embassy you interviewed at, and all those sort of things, right? So there you go. Okay. Hello, Britt. I'm from Ethiopia with 50K case number. Based on your suggestion, I transferred my case to Nairobi, and my interview was conducted last week and successfully. Thanks for everything you did. Respect. Mwah! Chef's kiss to that one. That's exactly the sort of message I want to read. It's someone who listened to what I had said, who took their chance, moved to a good embassy, Nairobi. And that person, congratulations, you were smart enough to listen, you were smart enough to take action, and you deserve your green card, mate, because you did something for yourself. And so congratulations. There's no way in hell you would have got your green card if you just waited in Ethiopia for your interview. It would never have come. So I'm pleased for you. I'm happy you did that. Well done. Hi, Simon. Any chance for AF 42,000 Abu Dhabi for 2NL? Yeah, there's a chance. We just have to wait and see. Talk about Nairobi Embassy. No 2NLs. Did they stop 2NLs? What a fucking... Oh... Why would the highest performing embassy in the world, literally, I mean, the best performing embassy, why are people getting freaked out about them stopping? This is just silly, Joe. I've told you before. I know I've told you before. Stop being silly. You just have to be patient. This is not the end of the month yet. The 2NLs for embassies can come out between the point at which the VB is published to the end of the month. Don't bother asking me. Don't bother panicking. Don't whine like a child about not getting your 2NL in the very first week when you know there's at least 2 weeks left, 2 weeks and a bit, where you could get a 2NL. So for God's sake, just be a bit patient. Nairobi isn't going to suddenly turn into a non-performing embassy, bloody obviously, right? So this is a silly question. Just be patient, okay? Winner from Kazakhstan, living in Canada, talked about that. Hello, sir. Currently working in Kuwait. I won the lottery 2025. Case number is 62K. 62K, but no region. Should I put my interview to be scheduled in Kenya or Kuwait? Okay, so you may be Kenyan. I'm having to read your mind, right? Because you're not giving me the proper information. Case numbers are specific to regions. So, 62K is probably an AF number, but you haven't told me that, so I don't know. It could be in some years, it could be an EU number, it could even be an Asian number in some years. So you have to tell me the region that it's in, right? All regions could have a case number 1 and a case number 2 and a case number 3. They have their own numbering ranges, right? So you have to tell me the year and the region when you give me your case number. Should I put my interview to be scheduled in Kenya or Kuwait? Your choice. I mean, I would choose Kenya, but that's your choice, right? If you're living and working in Kuwait, maybe it would be more convenient to be there. Your case number is a little bit high. You've probably got more security of getting interviewed in Kenya than in Kuwait, but it is your choice, okay? How long does it take an embassy to update cases in transit? Yaman, you send 2.5 up to 70K, but it hasn't yet been updated. It's not that it takes them any time. It takes them 5 minutes, right? There's no effort for them to do that. They're just pressing a button, essentially, or clicking a mouse, perhaps, to say, yep, we've accepted those cases. It doesn't matter to you. The cases are still at the embassy. It doesn't matter whether they've marked them as being ready. But we have had situations where cases have remained in transit for 3 and 4 weeks, 5 weeks, because the embassy has been too lazy to update the CX system. But it doesn't cause any problems. It doesn't affect your case in any way. And there's no need for you to get your knickers in a twist, okay? Relax. Everything's fine. It's calm, right? Peace, man. VM. Hello, Simon. Can you please tell me about chance for case number 2024 EU 32900? Already spoke to a gentleman earlier with a case number 33,000. Gave a pretty good rundown on how I felt about that, so I won't repeat it again now. 70K in Nairobi. Is it possible to get to NL within this month, Mr. Simon? Yes, it is. Hi, Simon. I can see the OC remain 2,000 for August. My case number is 2024 OC 2012. Oh my God, so close and yet so far. I guess there's no hope for us. Look, Licia, there's always a cutoff point, right? And yes, I have before seen people who are literally like 1 or 2 cases above the cutoff, right? Because even like case number 2,000 is not current yet. The highest case number in OC would be 1999, right? 1,999, because you have to be under the visa bulletin number, but you're incredibly close. Now, what do I actually think for OC? I suspect there's going to be a small increase in the final month. Small, 100 cases probably. I think we're probably going to go to 2,100. They don't have to. They're getting very, very close to the quota. There are enough cases already programmed in, already scheduled, for the Oceania region to meet its quota. Without any more visa bulletin numbers, they could do that already. Okay, so there is a risk. I've been talking about this risk for a month or so now. I realized this about a month ago, I think, and started talking about it maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago. So yeah, you are at risk, but I'm hoping you'll be okay. But the cutoff will fall somewhere, and it will negatively impact someone, and there'll be some sad case who is just a few numbers out. That's just the way life is, right? And I hope it's not you. I hope you'll get through. So fingers crossed for you. Hi, Britt. Is there a guideline on notarizing documents, like it is specified or supposed to notarize copies? Again, this comes back to the documentation question I was asked earlier. If an embassy requires documents to be notarized, they may say so in their instructions. If documents that you have are from a certain country where those documents have to be notarized, that will explain there. Other than those two things, you generally don't have to notarize documents. So read the instructions and follow the instructions, and you will know better. Okay. Ethiopia didn't release the visa bulletin in June yet. Is there any problem? What are you talking about? No way. Ethiopia don't release the visa bulletin. The visa bulletin has been released, but you're talking about Ethiopia, whether they've scheduled. Are you talking about 2NLs or the visa bulletin? I think you're probably talking about 2NLs. I think they've taken cases. I do actually think they've taken cases up to 24181, I think it is. But because there is a range of numbers that I can see that look like they continue from the highest numbers that were previously scheduled, and there's also a few low case numbers in that sort of range, and that range of numbers kind of adds up to the right number. So the right number of cases. So I think what happened is exactly what I told people would happen, that they got to 22,000. That meant that they went backwards a little bit, took a few low case numbers, and then continued to about 24,000 or something. Yeah, so they've taken that. So I don't know what your question really means, but I suspect it's about 2NL. So we'll see. John, how are you doing again? I'm a 2025 winner. How can I get the police letter of Afghanistan? Because there is working with USA military bases and barely moved out. You have to read the reciprocity page. I suspect it will probably say something like the police certificates are not available, because going through the Taliban, trying to get a police certificate because you want to emigrate to America, it's probably not the best thing you can be doing right now, considering how the Taliban behave, right? And they are the authority in many cases, over some documents. So, but read the reciprocity page for Afghanistan and you will understand better. And if it says it's not available, then you're not expected to take it to the interview, right? You don't have to apply for it. So Fabricio says, thanks for your amazing work. Could you please talk about the performance of the Montreal consulate? People get a little concerned about Montreal because over the last 2 years or so, they've started to use a form called DS5535. So they are giving it a bit more commonly than some other embassies. That's the same thing that we can say for Johannesburg and some other embassies which are sort of overusing the DS5535. Now, that DS5535 is a slightly enhanced background check, which they give to some cases during or just after the interview. They say, good interview, we would like to approve your case, but we just need you to fill in this form, and then we'll put you on 221G, which is used to be called administrative processing. We'll put you on 221G while we do some additional checks, right? And they want your full address history, they want your full social media history, your work history. It's the same things that you put in your DS260, just a little bit more, and they want to go through that process. Now, that generally for most people is okay. For Europeans, you're not going to be delayed very much. If you're an Iranian interviewing in Montreal, it could be a bit riskier because you're more likely to be put on these sort of background checks. And as an Iranian male, for example, going to interview almost anywhere in the world, you have a high risk of 221G delays anyway. So, so there you go. That's Montreal. Good embassy, but a bit too frequently giving people these DS5535s. That could change in the future. We just don't know for sure, right? Affectionate hands, happy Father's Day. Thank you. It's been a good one so far. AF above 100? 100K? Oh man. 2024, DS260 submitted outside USA and currently in USA. Is it possible to adjust status before being current? Okay, I see. No, if you don't become current, you can't adjust status. If you were to become current and you were legally in the USA on some non-immigrant visa, then you can adjust status, and that's a pretty good process to follow. it's worthwhile, especially at this time of year. But you can't do that unless you get current. And if your case number is 100K, you're probably not going to get current, I'm afraid, affectionate hat. So that will be the end of your story. You'll know that in, 4 weeks from now. You'll know for sure by then. Antonio, hello, Britt. DV 2024, 28K, my case number finally got current. I guess you're EU, right? I've filled my DS260 in May 23. Do you think I will have any trouble with receiving the 2NL? I don't know. How can I guess? I don't know. It depends on the embassy you're at. You haven't told me. You didn't even tell me. It did say EU. But I don't know which embassy you're at. So if you're in Ankara, for example, you're screwed. If you're in, I don't know, France or something, you'd be fine. Okay, you just have to wait. Hi, I'm from Liberia, AF 2025, win case number 5000. What's my change? I think you won with a case number of 5000 and you're asking what's your chance. If your case number is 5000 and you're in a pretty good embassy, Liberia is a pretty good embassy. They're doing very well. So you've got a very good chance. Right? Fingers crossed for you. Thanks for the updates. Monrovia, talk of the devil. Is Monrovia having a backlog? No, they issued their 2NLs on the 31st of last month. So they'll probably be late again this month, but they've been right up to the numbers. They haven't been experiencing backlogs at all. They've been doing very well. Okay, so fingers crossed. Antonio says, when should I expect to receive it? I don't know. You have to tell me which embassy you're at. Wanja, your advice on AF20K range for Nairobi, who has another visa interview for a student visa in November 24. I don't know what to say. I don't understand what your question really is. AF20K is a good number. Nairobi is a good embassy. You've got another visa interview for a student visa. Okay, so what? There's no problem with that. Any idea how the Freetown Embassy in Sierra Leone is doing? Let me check that. I haven't checked that for a little while. Let's see. Freetown. Let me just firstly check. Okay, so Freetown took 80 cases for August. Freetown, Sierra Leone. They are up to about 66,000, 65. So they're fine. They're a little bit backlogged, tiny little bit backlogged. I wish they'd have taken maybe 90. What would they have taken? Yeah, if they'd have taken 90 cases, they would be, probably more up to the numbers. But they took 80, so that's pretty good, right? So fingers crossed. If one has a discrepancy on names where the high school diploma contains 3 names while all the other documents have 4 names, how do I justify this to a consular during interview? It's not a problem. Your names are proven by your birth certificate. It isn't required for your education certificate that you list all of your legal names, right? So there isn't a problem here. You're worrying for nothing. You just have to show that the education document you have is your document, not somebody else's document. But if you've got 3 out of 4 names on the education document correctly, then it clearly is your document. So you just don't have a problem and you're worrying for no good reason. Okay, so relax. How they don't choose people from Guyana? I don't think that's true. Let's see, visa bulletin. So I'm looking up the visa bulletin for September of last year. It's called the September Visa Bulletin. It was published in August of last year. And that was the visa bulletin that listed all of the countries and all of the selectees from each country. That is the piece of information I'm telling DV 2025 winners to wait for. It's the visa bulletin that will be published in July or in August will have that information, right? So let's have a look at Guyana. Guyana had 9 selectees, right? Now, your question about they don't choose people from Guyana, that's not true. What you're saying is they don't choose many people from Guyana. Okay, that's true. That's because not many people from Guyana enter the lottery. It's as simple as that. If you have a very small number of people enter the lottery, you'll have very few winners. If, on the other hand, a lot of people from a country enter the lottery, you have a lot of winners. It really is as simple as that. It's a random draw, so there's no other way it could possibly work. And we have the entry statistics to back that up, right? So I know for a fact that the lottery is random and that it's fair and everything else. So Guyana only got a few winning cases because they had a small number of entries. That's all there is to it. Okay. Please analyze my case number, AF66.5K, DV 2024 Algeria. Can the visas run out before September? There's too much in there, really. So your number is okay. Algeria is a good embassy. Can the visa numbers run out before September? You may be talking generally, and my answer would be no, they won't. Not like DV 2023. We won't see a cancellation, and a backtracking, a cancellation of appointments, etc., like we saw in September. That isn't going to happen. Can Algeria meet the 7% quota? I don't think they're going to. I haven't checked that recently. I'm not going to do that now, but I don't think they're going to. So don't worry about that. Okay. Right. Thank you, Brit Simon. Just to encourage lottery selectees, we got visa as a family of 5, and we're traveling to America in September this year. Thank you for the guide and always mentioning Major Matata. Hakuna Matata. I don't know why. I've got the sense of humor of a 9-year-old child for some reason. I don't know why. So your name tickles me for some reason. But anyway, congratulations, family of 5. You're going to do well in America, I can just tell. So good luck to you. All right. Mode says, AS 12,000, 2025 Mumbai. Have to show $25K for a family while interviewing. How much family expenses for a month? Middle class family. I hope you remember I asked about my hypertonia daughters on your blog. Yeah, so let's talk about a couple of things. I generally tell people that if they are to pass an interview without showing an I-134, then they should have about $10,000 per person, per adult certainly, but preferably per person. So your family is, I know you've got 2 children because you have talked to me before, I know. And you've got 2 children, so you're a family of 4. So I would prefer you have a bit more than $25,000. I think you should have more like $30,000 or $40,000 to show. If you don't have that, I would have an I-134 if I were you. In terms of how much a middle-class family has to spend, it really is very dependent about where you go in the country, and frankly, it depends how much money you've got in the bank. When I came to America, I think I spent something like $40,000 in the first 3 or 4 weeks of being here. No problem at all, right? But I had money, right? And I was in a position where I could afford that. Well, you don't go and buy, as I did, a $4,000 bed if you can't afford a $4,000 bed, right? You can get by on a lot less money than I started with. I also came to a very expensive part of the country where wages are high, but also rents and that sort of thing were high. And so it was expensive. So this was back in 2014, 10 years ago. And my first rent payment for a house I rented was, I think, about $3,000 a month. Now, you'll probably pay more than that in expensive areas today, but you could pay less than that in some other areas. So it depends where you go and live, right? And I went and bought a car, and I don't believe in getting into debt, so I bought a car for cash. I paid cash for a car, right? Which is, again, part of the reason why I spent quite a bit of money. I don't think that was included in the $40,000 actually, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't. But I did spend a lot of money I rented a house. It was unfurnished. I had to furnish a house, and so I spent money on furniture and knives and forks and plates and all sorts of stuff. I remember there was a period of time when I was going to like a household furniture place, and I would be going for one thing, and I would walk out with hundreds of dollars worth of crap that my wife told me I needed. So we would, every time we would go near a store, we were spending $1,000 on just like that, So it depends how much money you've got as to how much expenses you want. One of the things that you're going to need because of your kid's condition is you're going to need insurance, right? And you should, as fast as possible, get insurance. Now, health insurance is often given by jobs, included within the job package, but you won't necessarily have that sort of health insurance coverage straight away. So you either buy a temporary policy, which is intended for new immigrants and can be kind of affordable, or better yet, and what I would recommend in your case, is you go on healthcare.gov, which is the Obamacare website essentially, and you get yourself a decent plan, a good quality plan from that website in your state, right, wherever you decide to reside. That could be expensive. You might spend $1,000 a month or $1,500, $2,000. I don't know what it costs, but whatever it costs, it's worth it to you because of your kid's condition. So you need that medical care immediately. So factor that into your expenses. But if you've got $25,000 and you're not coming to the most expensive place, you'll probably be okay. All right, good luck to you. Right. 72K, when can I expect to earn now? It depends which embassy you're at. Hybrid case number is 74K. Do I have a chance to interview? What region? What year? An angel is now going to be killed in your name, Imad. Let's assume you're 2024. Let's assume you're Africa. Do you have a chance of interview? Yes, in those scenarios, but I don't know. I don't know where you're from or what year you're in, right? I'm 2024 winner. Until now, we did not get the interview. Case number is EU 7000 in Ankara. I don't know what I should do. You can't do anything. You just have to hope and pray that Ankara will get to your case number. There's nothing you can do to speed that up. It just sucks to be in Ankara, right? So sorry about that. I'm 2025 winner, but my number is EU 40K plus. I'm located in the USA, so I would need to go with AOS. Taking into account such a high case number, is there still hope to get a green card? Look, we don't know right now. I do know that your case number is one of the highest case numbers, right? But what I don't know, and nobody knows yet, is how many people are selected in DV 2025. How over-selected is it? If it's not an over-selected year, then your number might be fine. And you could get a chance, right? If it's an over-selected year, which is probably more likely based on how they've been operating recently, then your number may never get current, right? Now, when will we know? When will we know that? Well, we'll know that information, how many selected people there are. We'll know that in either July or August of this year. They'll publish a visa bulletin, and it will have a list of all the winners by country at the bottom of that visa bulletin. That's when we'll know. So you have to wait until then. All right? Good luck to you on that. Okay, let's see if I can choose one or two more questions. Let's see. My wife's case number is around AS 10,500. We're currently residing in London. Based on your experience, when might we expect to have an interview? Now? I mean, soon. I don't know. I presume you're in DV 2024. I don't know. You don't mention. Okay, please clarify. If 2NL has not been received by 30th September 2024, in the instance my number becomes current, does it mean we are locked out of that year's DV? Yeah, let me just cover that one. It's a good question. The end of the fiscal year each year is the 30th of September of that year. So 30th of September 2024 will be the end of the DV program for DV 2024. And it's the beginning. The next day is the beginning for DV 2025. If you haven't got your approval by the 30th of September on that day, for any reason whatsoever, whether you were not scheduled for interview, whether you were interviewed and you were put on 221G, or for whatever other reason, right? Then yeah, there's nothing that can be done. You're not going to get your green card. The year ends, and anything that's not already approved is just cancelled. That means every case that has already been to their interview and they paid their medical fees and they paid their interview fees, but they don't get approved in time. Those cases, which is the worst possible scenario, those cases are all like lost. They're just cancelled straight away, and so there's nothing that can be done. There is no way you can get issued after that deadline, apart from a lawsuit, a lawsuit that would sort of keep those options open, which is what we have going on in DV 2020 and DV 2021. But that was highly unusual and not normally the case at all, that you can continue after the deadline. So yeah, in that case, you would lose your chance. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay. Okay, one last question. Let's see if we can find a good one. Okay. Britt, did you ever do the analysis that concludes people from Oceania are more likely to be selected? If so, could you point out the blog part's title or video title or re-explain it? I've done that many times. It's very obvious. It's simple math. It's not at all ambiguous. It's not at all speculative. We know for a fact that the chances of being selected in the Oceania region are higher than the other regions. Why is that? Well, there are less people that enter the lottery for the region of Oceania than there are the quota that is allocated to that region. The quotas are decided based on movement. There's a movement sort of aspect of the formula, and then population size. So if you've got a country or a couple of countries in a small region where the population is quite high, but the number of entries from that population is quite low, then there's a high chance that you'll have a low number of entries for the region, a relatively high number of visas available, and therefore your chances of selection are more, right? If you've got 850 visas available, which is about the quota in Oceania, but only, let's say, 200,000 people enter the lottery, then that's better than if 1 million people enter the lottery for the same number of visas, right? That's basically it. So the chance of selection for Oceania is between 5 and 10% annually. 10% is too many, and almost certainly that's too high a selection amount to make sure the selectees are enough, but not too many. So good years tend to be about 4 or 5%, where 4 or 5% selectees out of the region would be a nice number, and that would generally end up with people getting their visas, even though they're being selected. So what's 520 times that? Basically 20 times 1,000, 20,000. So it's a very small number of entries. In fact, we do have the data available. What you can do is you can Google the words DV lottery statistics, and you'll find a government webpage that gives the number of entries per country for a number of years, tells you the number of selectees and the number of visas issued. It's got 3 sections. The number of selectees is what the number of entries is what you should look at first. And you'll see if you add up the countries in the Oceania region, Australia and I know Fiji and New Zealand and so on, you'll see that the number of entries is pretty low. Let me go show you DV lottery statistics. There we go. I will show you this, and then we'll call it a day after that. This is a pretty good sort of piece of information that people interested in this lottery program. Philip, for example, if you're still watching, this is going to be a good thing for you to see. So let me put me over there. Let me get rid of Jack's question for a second, Jack, and we'll have a look at this page. Right. So I Googled the words DV lottery statistics, and I came to this webpage. The first thing is the number of entries during each registration period, then the number of selected entrants from each program, and then the number of issuances, right? So if we look at the first thing, and you can see that they're in 3 years blocks, right? So from 2007 to 2009, so that's 2007, 8, and 9 in that PDF. And then as we come up, we can see from 2019 to 2021 is the most recent data. They haven't published yet the 2022, 23, and 24. Excuse me. I'm waiting to see that, but you can get an idea of what goes on from this latest one we do have access to. And if you then, first of all, let's make this big enough so that you can actually have a look at this. You can see this and get rid of, can I get rid of that? I don't know how to get rid of this thing to the side. Right, so scroll down to the region that you're interested in. We'll have a look at Oceania. Oops, I went too far, I think. Yeah. Right, so if we look at the data here, and we look by country within the region, they've got the number of entries and the number of derivatives, and then the total number of people that entered. Right, so in the year of 2019, Australia had 13,000 entries. On those 13,000 entries, there were 6,493 derivatives, that's spouses and children. So, that was the number for Australia. In the same year, Fiji had 4,760. New Zealand had 3,500. So you can see in the whole region, we don't have very many selectees, less than 100,000 for sure. What, less than 50,000? Oh, there you go. 23,000 entries with 15,000 derivatives, right? That's all the people that entered in 2019. In 2020, we had 22,000 entries with 16,000 derivatives on top, right? In 2021, 16,000 entries, right? So in every year, there's a different number of entries, right? We don't have the 22 to 24 yet, but you can see that there's not a lot of entries. And if you then go and look at the number of people selected in each of those years, you could say, okay, 22 or 20, let's say 16,000 people entered with 11,400 there. Now, how many people were selected for the region? Well, I can tell you that pretty easily. We go on Brit Simon. Brit Simon says, have a look at my website here, and we look at visa bulletin numbers. On there, I've been tracking history of how the visa bulletin has moved over the years. And if we look at Oceania and we look at the years 20, we were just looking at 2019 to 2021. So in those years, the number of people selected was 1,500 people. That includes derivatives from, let's go back and we have a look at 2019. So that's 1,500 people from 39,000, is that right? Yeah, 39,000 people, right? So you actually should take into account the derivative rate and everything else. But as a quick bit of math, 40 or 39,000 people entered and 1,500 people were selected. So what's that? 5%, isn't it? 4.5%, about that roughly. So you'd multiply the 1,500 by 2.5 times, right? So yeah, about 4.5% in that year. The next year there were 39,000 people again, and so again 1,300. So the chance of selection was slightly lower in that year because only 1,378 were chosen out of the 39,000. And then in 21, 2,800 people were selected, which is a high number. Now this is going to be interesting. So 2,800 people selected out of, if we look at the 21 numbers, right, out of 28,000. So roughly 10% was the selectee rate at that time, right? Now, what I said earlier about that was too high, let's have a look at the visa bulletin numbers. In 21, of course, was COVID year, so that's fucked it up, frankly. I was about to sort of show you the magic of what that means, but 10%, so 28,000 people entered the lottery, including derivatives, and 2,815 of them were selected, so about a 10% rate of selection. is actually not exactly right. What you should really do is figure out the 2815, how many derivatives and how many real entries there are, and compare that to the entries number, not the total family number. But it's a reasonable approximation, right? So around about 10%. That year shouldn't have gone current. 10% is too many people. 2,815 people is too many people for 850 selectees. And if we go back, we could have seen that same data, by the way, in 21. We could have seen how many people were selected in Oceania. What I've done, my blog data there, that number comes from adding up all of these numbers. So there's the numbers per country. That's what that has. And then if you look at the number of people who actually were issued visas, and we look at 2021 and we look at Oceania, let's have a look down there. We scroll down to Oceania. And we can see that in the year of 2021, 2,800 people were selected and 631 of them actually got visas, right? So you can see that just being selected isn't guaranteed that you're going to get your visa, right? 22 was a bumper year for Oceania for some reason. That was way over quota. Quota can be moved from one region to another in certain circumstances according to a formula. And yeah, they got a lot of cases through in that particular year in 22. Many of those, by the way, in adjustment to status. These numbers include adjustment to status and consular processing. So yeah, so 2021, 631. You can see the other 2 years we looked at, 2019 and 2020, where there were 1,500 and 1,300 selectees. You can see the numbers were of people that actually get through the process is less than half, right? It's less than half the people selected. So there you go. That's, I think I just created the video, the whole explanation all in one go there, Jack. So I hope that covered it for you. Okay, we'll call that a day. Excuse me, coughing away. We'll call that a day. Thanks for your questions today. Some interesting questions, so I appreciate that. And by all means, please do make sure you're subscribed. Subscribe to my channel so that you're notified when videos come up, when I go live, when I just create some videos for recorded videos. Follow along at my blog, BritSimonSays.com. If you've asked a question today that I didn't get to, then go ahead and put it on my blog at BritSimonSays.com, and I will answer it there. Okay, I'm the only person working for my blog, and I do this as a hobby. So I fit it into time that I have working around my job, right? So I have a job for a living, so give me a little bit of time, but I will answer every question I see on my blog at BritSimonSays.com, and I also hang around in a couple of Telegram channels and that sort of thing and answer questions there too. Okay, there you go. That'll be it. Thumbs up. How many people gave me a thumbs up? Oh, come on. 7 people gave me a thumbs up like on this video. Come on, people. 313 people currently watching, and 7 of you have liked this video according to this software. I hope that's not true. I hope more people have liked my video. Come on, I do a better job than that. I deserve a thumbs up. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Happy Father's Day for those of you that are celebrating that today. All right. Bye-bye now.